Just like to welcome everyone to today's MGAA market briefing. So as usual, I'm always happy to see our presenters, but especially happy to see AR Generous today, who are going to share with us some demystifying of reserving and pricing for MGA. So before we move on to the main event, what I will do is do a quick bit of housekeeping for you. And what I forgot to do for anyone who hasn't seen me in the little box on Zoom, just introduce myself. So I'm Alison Cairns. I'm the L&D manager from the MGAA. So quick run through the housekeeping. If I could ask you, please, to not have cameras or microphones off, just helps us with the technology. And yeah, as I say, every time, it just makes sure that there's a really strong chance that we will stay with you to the duration and not have any technical hitches. So that would be very much appreciated. Also, polite request. This one isn't a don't. It's a please do. If you've got questions as we go along, please pop them in the chat, and we'll either cover them at that point if it's relevant, or we'll swoop back at them at the end and cover those all off for you. Also, I know that Zoom tells you, but just to remind you that the session is being recorded. But that does mean if you want to recap on anything, you can do, or if you want to pass a gentle nudge on to a friend that they might I always say that, a colleague probably, that you find that would be interested in this, you can do so. That will come to you hopefully early next week. And final reminder, just regarding CPD, that our sessions are accredited by the CII. So if it meets with your development needs, you can add this to your learning log. So without any further delay, I will hand over to Asif John from AR Generous. He'll do a quick introduction to himself and get underway with our session. So yes, over to you, Asif.
Thank you, Alice, for the initial intro and setting the context. Good afternoon, all, everybody. First and foremost, I'd like to say a special thanks to the MGAA and their staff for facilitating and hosting this webinar. So thank you for that. Second thank you will go to the people who have attended or who have registered. Again, thank you for you guys as well for attending today's webinar. So what is today's is about how can MGAs look at their reserving and pricing and harness, managing your portfolio in the most appropriate way that you can manage your portfolio, essentially. So we're going to go through it. So we're going to go through some slides explaining, give you a bit of elementary education as well around some of the reserving techniques. But let me just give a quick intro about who I am. So I'm an actuary. I'm one of the managing partners for Argenesis. Argenesis is a AI company that specializes primarily in the insurance industry, but also branches in health and educational side. In addition to that, I have done some lecturing at academic universities, such as LSE University, as well as Harrod Watts, and done some academic papers. But more so, what I'm also actively in is I'm the board chair for the Institute Factory of Actuaries for their AI, data science, and emerging technology. As I'm sure you appreciate, technology is changing very rapidly, so it's important that the professional institute obviously embraces it, that's connected with the actuarial profession as well. So that's a bit of intro about myself. I'm just going to go straight into the why this really matters for MGAs. As you know, a lot of MGAs may be relying on the risk carrier and not getting any independent evaluation. I mean, the risk carrier is great, but it's very much driven from their side. And just a couple of points to flag. Surely you don't want to be as an MGA as just a pure distributor, because it's important to know your portfolio. So I think if you've got the data, you should really look at even some of the actual MI that could be complementary. So that's number one. Number two is if you want to grow your business as well more, then it's good to know your portfolio as well. So that would be obviously important to have maybe an independent validation on your results. And then I do appreciate that actuarial may be expensive, but I know obviously there are solutions around that as well. So that's why it's really matter. A lot of people still do, even now, rely on spreadsheet models, uh, which may be fit for purpose at a given time. But just taking about, we are in the fourth generation of the technology industry, so we should be embracing new changes and adapting to it. So we've got to just be mindful of that. And this is where it's important that you manage your credibility as well as build better controls for your profitability levers as well associated. So that's why I believe it does really matter for MGAs making sure ultimately they are having a good portfolio management of their book of business as well. So just an overview, briefly touch base. So we're going to go through the elementary of chain ladder, some of the fundamentals, why and what. Nothing too algebraically complicated. I would say more a simplified arithmetic, but I think it's good just to understand the chain ladder. The second is some of the assumptions that could affect the results. I think that's good. And some practical tools, such as even like GenieAPP that's run on the cloud. And then we're going to cover why is data. So I think data is important in all different aspects, really. Whether it's from an actuarial or non-actuarial. If you have data, the empirical data, it tells you and interprets you the right result. So I think it's really important to have data. There's a saying, garbage in, garbage out. Essentially what that means, whatever data you put in to anything and what you get out is what you'll get out in return. So it's important to make sure your data landscape is done correctly as well. I know this is not an AI session, so I won't go too much into the AI or data aspect, but these things are also important. So we're just going to surface that level of covering points as well. So what is a chain ladder ultimately? So the principal chain ladder is, if you see that graph there, you've got your upper triangle point and you've got your lower. What I mean by upper, where it's all green, and your lower part, which is all in red, is really where we're trying to predict, where the losses are going to be developing. For example, if you look at year 2011 on development year, where it says 4180, we're trying to predict where does that go towards, in which future, how many losses is that going to be more, what's that loss amount going to be turning out. So a chain ladder is very good when you've got a lot of historical data, so it can predict the data patterns associated with this, and it calculates your loss development factors associated with this. So this is where a chain ladder adds value, when you've got this type of data maturity around it as well. And it helps you incomplete a lot of your ultimates, which is on your lower triangle side here. So that's where this visual diagram is from. Okay, so we're going to go through a simple cumulative triangle here. So on your y-axis, meaning the accident year, you got the 3 different accident years of course, and on your x-axis, you've got your 12-month development period from 100, 150, 200, as this is a cumulative triangle as well. The question here is, what we're trying to do here is predict the lower part of the triangle, which is where we've got those question marks. Just going back, just looking at the diagram here, which is all in red cells, that's what we're trying to predict with those question marks we've got there. So let's move on now to how do we get this prediction based on a simple chain ladder. There are different chain ladder techniques, but we're going to go through a simple version here just to provide you the initial elementary side. So you got the development steps here from 12 to 14. So you got your year 2021. Essentially, what you're doing is you're dividing your 150 over your 100, which then gives your average development factor of 1.5 for that year. And then you've got your 2022 growth. You're doing that 170 divided by 120, and it shows it in that graph there, hovering my mouse there. So you do this 150 overhead divided by this, or this 170 divided by 120, and that's your arithmetic calculation where it calculates your average development factors here, which is what we're going to be using to predict where the ultimates are going to be moving towards forward from here. Okay, with this, applying this average development factors here, where we had those question marks early, I'll go straight into what it's doing. It's taking your latest number of 170,000 and it's multiplying your average development factor here, which then produces an ultimate of 226k here. And that's where you fill in your lower part of the triangle. As you see in 2022, it's 220k, and in 2023, we've predicted it to be £250,000. And that's how that multiplicative calculation works, where it's predicting it based off a simple chain ladder method. So the way that would look over here for us is that you've got your reported, and what we mean by reported is your latest diagonals here, which I'm hovering 130, 170, 200. That's your latest reported here. Then you've got your ultimates, which is what we've calculated earlier along here. And then you've got your IBNR, your pure IBNR, which is a subtraction from 226 minus 170. So that's your pure IBNR. And that could tell you something that gives you a bit of an understanding how much more you're estimated to have losses coming, and also tells you also implicitly the maturity, is there still development going forward. Now, chain ladder is fantastic in a sense of when you've got some good historical data and it's more predictable. As they say in the statistics, the more data points you have, the more you can predict. It's the same principle with the way chain ladder works. The more data point, the more you can predict from it. But there is other chain ladder methods as well, but we just went through the simple chain ladder methodology. However, on the back of that, there is something called Bonifu-Ferguson, where it's based on a level of underwriting judgment. Now, this judgment is compounded based on underwriting experience, market, and any other kind of empirical data points that you can use that is not inside of the pure empirical data set that you got. And that's where you estimate here on this column the expected ultimate losses for a book of business. So for example, you might think for travel insurance, I reckon this would be around £250,000, whereas for property it might be in the millions, depending on the size of the account, and so on, even with this 300,000. So these are just estimates that we use as part of the Bonifu-Ferguson. And this is this column, the reported date, is your latest position, which I showed you earlier on, the 170 and the 130. This percentage development is your ratio from your chain ladder. So that would be your, which is normally calculated being 1 divided by your average development factor that you have calculated. And that's where this percentage comes, and the same with 51. Now, how does Bonifu-Ferguson ultimate? It's a bit of a blend of both in simplicity. What you essentially do, you take this percentage, which you originally got, 1 minus, times your expected ultimate losses, what you anticipate. Then you add that back onto your development, and then you multiply it by your 226, which is what we've got from the chain ladder prediction. Therefore, your revised Bonifu-Ferguson ultimate works at £233,000, which is different from what the original chain ladder estimate was having, 226 here along here. Again, the same for this year. It does the same Bonifu-Ferguson ultimate, and it calculates this through, and it shows you this 276. And then this is your pure IBNR from the difference between what the reported 170 and what you've got as your BF, and this is your pure, which are slightly different. The question really becomes is, when do you use a Bonifu-Ferguson? Well, that's a dependency on more recent years and the maturity of your product line as well. If you're dealing with a long tail, long tails will take a lot more longer to develop. So you got to decide where you want to be using the Bonifu-Ferguson side. Within the tool, which we'll show you, you can do a blend of mix of both of them, or you can use a pure Bonifu-Ferguson. It's a balancing act you need to be focused on here. Right. So why channel management? As I said, it's very important, because how are you going to determine your ultimate loss ratios if you're not using certain reserving techniques? So that's important. There are some more advanced techniques, but that's also important. It's also important from a pricing and underwriting discipline. And what I mean by pricing is that you'll have a rate book, and you want to know how the product performance of that is, so that if you need to kind of massage your rates, you can do this as well. And that helps as well. Or you want to revisit and do a full technical pricing review of your model, of your coefficients. What I mean by coefficients, loadings and discounts, when you have a rate book base, loadings and discounts for different risk factors. And then your underwriting disciplines is also important. You may want to be changing some of your wordings reflective of, what your ultimate loss ratios are and what's driving those levers. Could it be an underwriting thing or an underwriting clause? So, this is where it helps as well. Also, it helps with your drivers around profit commission. As you know, depending on what profit commission clauses you have, that will help. And it gives you better leverage and buying power with your risk carriers, just trying to negotiate it. It doesn't fully depend on just on your risk carriers. You can come independently and say, this is how my portfolio is running. So ultimately, it's good for portfolio management. And another example is that if you're massaging your profit commissions or changes of some of your assumptions from 5%, it could vary. It could have a good profit variances as well. So, this is why it's important to also incorporate chain ladder and maybe other techniques associated with that as well. Now, there are still people in the global industry still using Excel, and it serves well, but it depends in which way. Then you've got to say to yourself in your mind that how comes we're not embracing other ways of looking at things if technology is changing so rapidly? So I'm talking about a good few years ago, if some of you may or may not be aware, they were using an Excel spreadsheet. There was a mistake in there, or I think with one of the formulas, which was overseen. And as a result of this being overseen, a little error, it actually accumulated to a big loss with one of the biggest bankers in the global market. So, why I'm sharing this is because I think it's important to know it's good to use spreadsheets, but there are caveats around using spreadsheets as well. So we need to be mindful of that as well. Right. So what also goes beyond just using traditional spreadsheets is your data integrity. As I mentioned, an example of errors or hidden formulas. Some links could be broken. That's one aspect. Whereas a system is more version controlled, structured. It can validate it as well. So that has a true added value benefit of using a system. Audit and governance. You cannot do that on a normal spreadsheet, but you can have it on systems like have it fully audit trade. You can have a governance permission level group and a comprehensive documentation that could be kind of used for an output for yourself to utilize as well. There are other points here as well, but let's talk about more credibility with the carriers. So, you have a bit more transparency and earning the methods of trusting as well with your risk carriers. So there's various reasons why you want to go beyond that as well. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And there's other things as well about scaling as well. If you're dealing with a lot of volumes, spreadsheets can only have a certain amount, and it takes a long time to crunch through them as well. Okay, we're going to shortly introduce you now to a tool. And this tool is it's a cloud-based that provides actuarial and analytics platform, and it supports perfectly for MGAs that are having a portfolio management. It's got the automated chain ladder and Bonifus that can help on your portfolio pricing analytics. And when I mean by that, in a sense of your ultimate loss ratios, how they're performing. It also has the capability of different bordereaux and different formats where you can get instant calculations for your IBNR and your ultimate loss ratio. we are also going to surface on AI. Now, there's different AI technologies, but there's different, what we're going to have free functionalities, which I'll surface within the tool about it. But there are different modules in AI that can help as well the journey for yourself, so you don't feel alone during this journey as well. How we're going to go through the demo flow is we're going to show you an upload of a data set. We're going to detect some of the triangles and the development patterns. We're going to show you how the calculations work instantly. And then we're going to show you some AI kind of, if you have a problem and you need a robotic actuary, how the AI could help as well. And then some instant dashboards from the documentation that we will show. I'm going to stop sharing now, and my colleague will be sharing her screen. I've just got to know, how do I stop sharing? Bear with me. I'm trying to think and slow. Just there we go. I've just stopped sharing myself, and my colleague would now show her screen. Okay. What's also important is your security level. So there's a 2-layer security we have here on the cloud for the GenieAPP. The first layer is just a simple user name and password. As you go into a single login, you might be afraid, oh, maybe someone's cloned onto the user, but you have the authentication, like a mobile app, Microsoft Authentication as an example you can use, and then that's how you go in. Why it's important? Because you don't want people to look at your output or your results, which could be compromised here as well for us. Right. Here we're in the first part of the data schema. Now let's use a little bit of types of AI functions we've got in here. So we've got an AI robot that can help you if you're not sure. And the AI robot can also interpretate the results for you in terms of the data points that it's got as well. And the other AI robot works on forecasting a future ahead based on the information that it's got on the data points. So we're going to just talk to the robot and ask, how do I load a data schema as an example, which is what the AI do. You can either write to it or you can speak to it. That's personal preference, but we're just obviously that's just propagating, and it will respond to you fairly instantly and explain you how do you load it, which is fairly straightforward from the browser side. But it is there. The robot's there to help you. I mean, there might be another question we may ask is then how do we set up segments of profiles as an example? What the AI robot would be doing is be explaining you step by step what is involved, and it shows you how to do it each step-by-step basis as well. So this is one of the functions of the AI we've got in here that can show you, but there's other functions within this tool that it helps you, as I mentioned earlier as well. I think what we could do is let's also show you how to load a new or previous session, because you want to save these results as well. So it's saved so you can always call back, especially when you're doing a diagnostic health check. But we're just going to load a session just to show you how that works as well before we go into the data schema aspect. And that's where that shows it populates the load session we've done. Now, we've got 4 types of data sets. The first is your premium. As you see on the left-hand side of it, it's got in bold key column variables that are very important to determine your ultimate loss ratios. However, behind the hood, there's a lot more data. You can have 200 columns or millions of rows, entirely up to you. You can connect through different data sources, whether it's a CSV, Excel, text, or an API connection, or even a database that can be fully ingested into here as well. And then you've got your claims, and then you've got your latest claims, and then you've got your triangle. There's 2 types of triangle data sets. You've got your line-by-line data sets for triangle, or you've got your aggregated. Now, with the aggregated, you would notice the schema's changed, and there is a caveat that you're able to segment your attritional and your large losses when you've got aggregated triangles. So, and whatever profiles or segments they need to be separated in separate tabs to associate that. So otherwise, you're not going to get a true picture of your results. So, but for the purpose of this, we're going to show you the line by line. And what we do is we'll get Natalie to upload a data set. Now, what's happening behind the background is automatically matching these columns by automatically along here. So you don't need to do any engineering behind the hood. The algorithm does all of this for you, and you don't need to worry about it. And that's where that does. That's right. And the same with the premium, it does for you as well. And the triangle data. Okay, so you've matched, once this is all scanned, it checks, it doesn't just do that, it checks the data integrity, meaning the quality of data. So sometimes you might have some of the data that might be missing some premium, or it's got some negative premiums, or the data format's not. So it does a level of ETL within inside it as well, and it checks it all, and it gives you an information warning flag ahead of that as well, which you can drill down on further as well. Okay, so that's done here, and we apply it. Let's now move to the next step. This is the core, the setting the model parameters. In simple English, what it means is it's setting the scene in, what range you want to do, what type of loss year type you want to do. Just setting the range, but we call it model parameters. Essentially, what you do here, you have different year types, whether it's a binder year, which is more used a lot for MGAs, or accident year, accountant, or underwriting year. And you've got different, on your vertical line, how do you want you represent it, on a annually, quarterly, you could even consider even a daily one, but that's personal, depending on the data you got or the product line. And you've got the premium types as well, whether it's earned or written. Earned has a pre-coded actuarial earning methods pattern, but you can incorporate your own methodology of earning patterns as well as part of that. For the purpose of what we're showing you, we're just going to show you written. And then you've got your inflation. So there's two aspects here. We're doing a forward looking. So it's going to on level your inflation, on leveling meaning bring it today's value. It's going to inflate. But if you want to go further than 2025, based on your data cutoff, you can go further with the claims inflation calculation. And then you've got, depending on your MGA capacity program you've got, you can obviously have a different program associated with it. So just a pure primary, or you take a certain level of captiveness. So you can program that as well within your losses. And then you've got your large loss threshold here, which people maybe use a standard one, or you can stress test it based on your data, what it tells you. But you've got different large losses as well, whether it's excess of loss or others, or the entire history. And then you've got your CAP method. Now this is either on a threshold or index based on, where if you index it based on your loss description, or you've got a column that's got CAP, so you can index it that way accordingly as well. And then you can do your triangle either on an annually or quarterly, monthly basis. And what I mean that I'm talking the horizontal line. Now let's just talk a little bit about the assumptions. There are some assumptions that we use. You can again upload it similar to the way we've done with the schema, or you can copy and paste it, because if you may be doing it by monthly, you don't want to be doing that manually. So a lot of that is already done, or you can hard it into it that it picks it up, and you can update that table regularly. And then you've got your inflation for your exposure, your claims split by attritional large, by nets and grosses, your rate change. You've got your cat loading and inflation. Cat loading this isn't an RMS or air type of model. It's the output of that it takes into it, and we use that to on level your results. So this is where that comes into it. And you got your inflation if it's not already implicitly in your cat loading for your cat losses. This is where this comes in. If you go further down, Now, let's say you've got a large data set that's got different product lines from motor, household, or travel. You may want to filter out travel for whatsoever. So you have that as a potential way of filtering it rather than use traditional spreadsheets where you're doing it kind of manually chunk way. You can do that, or you can create profiles. And what I mean by profiles is segmentations by peril types or your risk factor or your rate book. Yeah. So if you're doing a professional indemnity book, you might have the base, you got your ILF limits, you got your excess, or you got your trade profession, so you can segment it. We're going to show you here by a specific trade segment, and we've settled manufacturers. Now, what's important when she selects it is your exposure, excess, and your threshold. So at the aggregated level, it may be totally different from the segmentation, because if you're segmenting it by motor, household, or travel, travel will have a different excess for large losses, or even exposure. So where you might use professional indemnity based on a limit or turnover, or you might use property, which is to do with TSI, total sums insured. So those are different exposures you want to do. Otherwise, you're not going to get the true, correct, accurate representation of your results. And then she will create. And then this is where, once this is all done, she's just creating another profile. And that's if you're doing it. If you've got your rate book by different trades and she creates different. So you can create multiple segmentation profiles, entirely up to how you want to slice and dice it. And then the calculation happens behind the hood. And she's just, you can retain it. If you're doing a health check, you can retain ones as well. Or if you're not doing a health check, you can just compute it. And this will then run behind the hood on the background, and it does all the necessary calculations for you. Again, you don't need to worry about checking formulas. It's already all done for you and it's all checked. And it runs that. And then we got, if you're unsure still about your large loss, you do have a statistical distribution that calculates it with that. It fixes a shape and it tells you different percentiles. So if you're unsure which large loss, you can always rely on the data as well. So you can use that as well further. I think the next tab is also important, is the integrity of your data. What I mean by that is that if your policy or claims data don't reconcile with your triangle, then that could be a challenge. It shows you that discrepancy. Sometimes what might happen is in your triangle data, you may be missing premiums that you want to develop out as well. So as long as your line by line data's got the right data, you can then bring your premium data from your line by into your triangle, which it does that at the back. So you don't need to engineer any of your triangles. It does it for you, essentially by different types of profiles and the premiums it does it associated with that as well. Not just premiums, but it can do also claim counts or losses as well. And that propagates, and it's just done, mitigates all the discrepancy issues that it will have. And then we've got some elementary basic level. This is the basic level core kind of visualizations that you can then differentiate between gross or net, different profiles. You'll have your visual graphics there with the average premium or the raw loss ratio. So this is where you do your initial health check on your actuals latest. You can zoom in, zoom out from it. And then you got further down below, and these are just the core ones. There's other ones outside of this as well. And then further down, you got your tableaus associated, and you got your different earning calculation methods there as well for your premium and your losses as well. I think if we can move to the next one. Okay, so the triangles. If you recall, we did talk about the accumulative chain ladder, which we're going to go through. But here you will see a little bit more. You will see the incremental triangles here, if they are incremental triangles originally. Some triangles could be coming incremental or cumulative, but you've got that option in the model parameters to reflect that. It picks it up if it's an incremental or a cumulative. So here we're going to just show you the incrementals. Now in the incrementals, you have the opportunity to massage your numbers here. And this is where you got a track and audit control here as well. So if she changes it, then it will show a track and audit control. And this is also important. It tells you the time, the user, what did they do before and after, and was it saved or not saved as well. So it shows you, and you can then export this out accordingly to how you want it to be. So that's where you can manipulate some of the data. And then you've got your cumulative. And earlier we spoke about the link ratios, the simple link ratios we went through as part of how that, and this is here, it is here, a bigger table here. Now these link ratios you can also massage if you want to, and that will be reflective into your calculations as well. And here's your link ratios. And further below on this table here, I went through the simple average, but you got weighted average as well. And you got other methods as well. And here you can see the loss development factors here. You can also incorporate your market curves in here, or customize, or bring in your previous quarter or monthly link ratios so you can compare it. And then you've got some statistical kind of smoothing associated that you can use as well as part of bringing in different curves to see how it's best fit to you. And then further below, this is your development percentage, which I showed you earlier in the slide, how the reported development, which I mentioned 75% and 51% earlier. So it shows you this is where the development happens. Now you've also got periods, so you can slice or project your periods forward. So you might be running a book from 2025, but you want to see, okay, how does it go into the more future years as well? So you can do this as well. Or you can also exclude your high-end spikes, your minimum, maximum, and that could be incorporated as well. And there's other things as well where you can mix match different link ratios. Do you want to go further? Over here is now the chain ladder prediction, where it's predicting all of your chain ladder. So if you look at the year 2023 and the development year 7, it's showing 230,000, and even in 2022 it's 8 million. But the historical years, it's showing a lot more higher. So you can question, should you just rely just only on the chain ladder, or can we have a blend of the Boniface Ferguson? And this is where that could be auto-setted as well behind the background to pick this up, to be reflective of this as well, which we'll show you shortly. And here's some graphical visualizations of what the actuals and how it's projecting. So, you've got your pure actuals and then your dotted projections. You got them split by your ultimate loss ratios from large, attritional, or even at total level as well. And that's how it's showing you weights. And this is good for time series checking and seeing if there's any concerns. But further down below, what's also important is your large losses excess capital. That's a ratio between your large loss and your attritional. And what you want to see over a time period is if there's any bubbles. Because if there's bubbles, that means there's been a change of behavior with your large loss. So this is also a good representation of some visuals that you can visualize and have as well. And on the BF method, the Boniface Ferguson method, where again you split it by attritional loss, you can put some estimated numbers behind the background. Now these can all be auto set as well, but we're just showing you got that flexibility as well. And you done attritional large? Yeah, so this is where she's just putting the, as I mentioned earlier, the expected ultimate losses is what she's putting here, which is a subjective judgment around that as well, which is what numbers she's putting in here as well. Yeah, and that's essentially what she's done, her Boniface Ferguson estimates as well, which has gone through. There are other methods, but we're just going through the BF. Do you want to go through ACPC? That stands for average claims cost per claim. We're just showing you net. So the triangles doesn't just do losses, it does claim counts as well if you're working on your frequencies. but you've got your actuals, you've got your ultimate claims count, your latest positions, and your ultimate, and the averages associated with that. So that's the tableau across it. And then you've got your graphs further down below to give you a visual interpretation. On the orange is your actuals, and the green is the prediction and where it's seeing it's going to be going forward. And then you've got your red line, which shows you your averages across those years. As I mentioned, this is just by year, but it can be done not just on year. You can go more granular by monthly or quarterly basis. There are some other advanced data science and machine learning ones, but techniques that you can use as part of your calculations, or you can use your other simple bootstrapping methodology. These are more stochastic type of models that you can go, but this does come down to if you understand it. Now, remember we showed you the AI, so this is where you can use the interpretation if you're unsure on what that means, and that's where you can use your AI robot actuary to run this as well. Do you want to just run this simulation? So she just ran it works. It's like a Monte Carlo type of simulation mechanism, and it shows you that. And you can see your chain ladder, non-parametric, or Gaussians. Again, you can use the AI robot if you're not familiar with these terms, because it will explain you step by step what does these things mean for in layman English languages as well here. If you want to go to now, let's go to the summary. Over here, it gives you a quick summary of what you've gone through in your workflow of the software, both on the chain ladder, Boniface Ferguson, and some semi-advanced stochastic techniques as well. Further down below, it's got a prediction of how do you interpret it, which is a good fit to have. So it's got a confidence interval associated. Obviously, in simple terms, the wider the blue, the more there's a concern if it's predicting correctly or not. That's like a kind of diagnostic check here for this side of things. And then let's go now on to the outlook. How do we see the go forward book? And you've got some pre-calculations it does to calculate your inflations, or you can use your prior, or you can use a bit of blend, or you can use a market point as well. But we're just going to show you that it's just going in and she's incorporating the right rates for the inflations that it brings forward for you. And the same mechanism works with rate change, inflation as well, which is what she's just going to just showcase it using the prior numbers as well, because this is going to show our on-level ultimate loss ratios, because there is a difference between ultimate loss ratio versus on-leveled ultimate loss ratios. Yeah. Now I mentioned earlier about the ultimate loss ratio, how we can set default parameters and make it auto in which way you want, or you can override the flexibility. So if you want to do a mixed model overriding from the current year, let's say 2023, you can do that as well, or you can auto set it as well. Entirely up to how you want to use this mechanism. And you can do 100% Boniface Ferguson, because we you feel the chain ladder is not that credible, or you can do a mixture of both. Even in the previous year, a mixture of chain ladder and Boniface Ferguson side of things, you can blend in as well. So that does all the necessary blending and of both, even the year. But again, that's dependent though on the type of data maturity, the product line maturity. So you got to use a certain level of judgment around this as well. And that propagates behind the background. And then this shows ultimately your latest position, your ultimates, split by your gross ultimate loss ratio and your net premium ultimate loss ratios along here. It shows you as well. As part of it, further down below, you can split it by averages, average 5 years, 2 years, or 3 years, or you can customize that for yourself. And then you've got your on-leveled, where you're bringing everything today. So just to explain, what is unleveled? Let's say a few years ago you had a car accident, the damages were 1,000, but bringing it to inflating it to today's value is what the on-leveling is meaning. So that's what that is, and that's where it's showing you here you do. And then the on-leveling results are shown further down for your premium, your actual losses, and then your ultimates as well, split by large, traditional, total, and even your cats along here as well. And then you have your weighting allocation, which is where it shows you here. So this will give you a real good positioning both at the aggregated portfolio or even at the segmentation level. And then you've got some graphical visualization on how this is represented by your segments or the aggregated. And then you can see the further below another graph that shows premium, actuals, and ultimates and on-leveled associates. So that's a different way of visualizing it as well. You have got the other opportunity to go into a bit more deeper into the ultimate loss ratio visualization. I call that more portfolio analytics, where if you've got a rate book and you're looking at your limits or ILF, you can actually have a range. So therefore you can see specifically nested by the risk factors, how is it performing. So you get your actual latest loss ratio here, meaning what I mean by latest actual raw loss ratio, where it shows you if you go further down. Then you've got your ultimate loss ratios, and then you've got your on-leveling, and then you have like a movement type of effect. How does it impact it as well? And that's where you got that. There are other things in here, but let's just go into the health check. There's different types of health checks that is shown as well, where you, as I showed you earlier, where you can upload a session from your previous ones that you may have recorded that you can do a health check on. The health check is really about, there's a few aspects. One is what did you do last month or quarter or year versus now, and just doing a movement comparison of your losses. That's where this health check comes in. That's one of the aspects. But you also can do it not just on actuals, but your ultimates and your on-leveled as well. So these are some parts of health check to know, is everything falling in line or not falling in line as comparison. And then you've got the aggregated results here. What's also useful is the triangle. So I call this more MI triangle, that is pre-calculated by the key metrics across the years and the developments along it. So this is more kind of, I call it management information stats, where it shows you the key metrics associated, and you can track how it's performing on a monthly basis before you undergo a more deeper review. Now, the other thing I mentioned, if you've got combined data sets of product lines or segments, you can then, on an additive basis, combine them together, which is what we're showing you here on these. And it combines it again by your ultimates as well as your on levels. And you can see the same down here. And all of this then, once you've gone through your kind of process, you can then populate this into a documentation where it's got an output documentation. There's different formats, but we're just going to show you a Word document, and you can decide what documents. You also have something called TAS, which is Technical Actuarial Standards. This is more from a regulatory point of view, but you might just want to output just the ultimate loss ratio. What this does is then this will just generate a report for ourselves whilst that's generating. We're just showcasing it to you here. And in this document, again, you can offset this and put it into your own presentation style. But you can see all the stuff that you've ran through. It shows you into this documentation. And we've only asked for the ultimate loss ratio tab, and it shows you here the representation of what you've gone through as well. Yeah. Is that right? All right. I think let's just go. Let me share my screen. Let me add. You want to stop sharing? Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen. Coming back to me. And just go in here. I think people can see my screen. Let's just switch this. This always happens. So we just went through it for you, the tool, one of the tools that could be used. Just to explain AI, so there are different modules we mentioned earlier, but some of the things like it deals with your text writing or vocal. It can also deal with anomalies or missing data aspects as well, or put some annotations. It can do your trend comparisons by different segments or geographical, and it can do your as if scenario testing. For example, you say, what happens if I want to change one of my assumptions? How does that look like as well? So within this tool, we've incorporated these components that will help you better understand your portfolio. Now, within this tool, we've got different tiers. So we have a free trial, which is free. And then you got your bronze, which does the core elements for you. And then you got your silver, which is having extra portfolio modules and the trends. And then you've got your advanced, more with the AI and customization. And then you've got your enterprise level. I would say these are the kind of tier structures that we have that we can, if anybody's curious to know what are these, I'm happy to have that conversation a bit more if required. I mentioned earlier about data found. It's so important. Garbage in, garbage out, so GIGO. So if your data is not perfect, then you need to make that sure structured right. If you're missing any data or exposures on your historical, that needs to be correct. The GenieAPP does do a level of this, and it does the maps and validations automatically, but this is also important. And there are certain trainings or templates that are available. I mean, we do other stuff outside of the actuarial, but that's important about your data side things. So I think all of these things, data foundation is very important to move forward in to get that right. All right, so let's just talk about how does that look for an MGA. Just if you're a startup, it's going to help you give you more visibility with your ultimate loss ratio. It will secure your capacity renewal a little more for if you're a startup MGA. If you're a medium-sized MGA, there is a potential you can save 30% on analyst time because it will be all fully automated. And if you've got a large group and you've got a lot more larger portfolios, this is better for governance and making it more at an enterprise level where it can be customized even more further for yourself. At the same token, maybe across all of them, you may be even audited by your capacity providers. All of this will ultimately bring good confidence around your growth and how you're building it. So this is how the success will look like for MGAs, and maybe other elements as well that will help drive the success. So just a quick recap. We went through the reserving, pattern recognition, and some of the discipline. We've covered your chain ladder estimates, where we went through a simple average, but we also showed you on the software there's other techniques that you can do. Actuarial tools are affordable to empower MGAs because they're a different type of segment within the distribution landscape. The GenieAPP does obviously provide you this governance, speed, and clarity where it can help you go forward. So hopefully we've given you a good overview and the recaps here as part of that. I'd just like to close with a nice quote and contact. Actuarial insight isn't just for actuaries, it's for everyone, MGA, that wants to grow responsibly and reasonably. So I think that's important. It's not just about having actuaries from a risk carrier's perspective. It's also making sure you as portfolio managers can also understand how your accounts are running as well. That helps as well. There's a couple of things before we go Q&A. So we've done a blog around AI chat box. That's our QR code if you want to have a look at it, specifically tailored for the insurance industry. But we've also got an MGA server, so it'd be great if we can have that opportunity. You can spend 2-3 minutes just doing an MGA server to finding out more about you, because we want to help as a community as well to make sure everybody can embrace the right things to help them manage their portfolio. I'm going to now pause it. I know we've got a few more minutes for leaving any sort of Q&A questions. If anybody's got any questions, feel free.
But yeah, a round of applause, but no questions at the moment. I think
Okay.
that that means you've covered everything.
Wow.
You've not
Wow.
left it. You've not left any room for any questions.
I must be a robot myself then. Not getting any questions.
But yeah, I'll give it a little while. I usually do,
Yeah.
but if I say yeah, obviously a big thank you to you for that session. It was yeah, very informative and made what might not necessarily be an exciting and engrossing session to be very interesting. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome.
And just having a quick look, we haven't got any questions, but you've got your contact details, haven't you,
Yeah, yeah,
on the slides? And
yeah. My contact is, feel free to reach out to us. You know, I can go a bit more deeper if we need to about the AI elements as well. That supports it. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions.
yeah,
We're all here to help each other. So, you know, it's just about bringing the jigsaws together for everybody just to work together. And yeah, just feel free to reach out. We are in the City of London as well. So we're going to happy to kind of catch up accordingly if people want to know a little bit more. And given my background of kind of covered different aspects, I'm happy to go in a bit more further if needed.
no, that's perfect. And so I will be sending everyone a copy of the slides, but also the recording. So if they've not grabbed the details here or clicked the QR code, they will be with them hopefully, if not the end of the week, with them very early next week. So yeah, so thank you again, and thank
Thank
you
you.
to everyone that attended. We'll let you go off and enjoy your afternoons.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Appreciate that from MGAA facilitating this all as well.
No
Thanks.
problem.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.